We're back for our 14th socially distant studio visit. I call them that because that's a positive way of referring to them, but they really are a kind of pandemic diary. As I check in with artists that have exhibited and worked with hall walls over the years in different locations across the continent. And today we're talking with Kyle Butler, who is in Buffalo, New York. And Kyle is probably half a mile away from me, literally speaking, but a million miles apart through the ether. So as with everyone else, Kyle, my first question always has to be, how are you?
I'm all right. As far as like isolation, this is not the hardest game for me, I feel like. And then I just have periodic moments of like, oh, everything's kind of screwed for a long time. But the day to day is all right. Um, Teaching online now is going okay, although group morale seems to go back and forth depending on the week or depending on the day. But our semester is starting to wrap up, so I'm curious to see or feel what this is like when I don't have nearly as many things to do.
How do you find the students adapting to remote teaching? Are they, because I'm always very curious about that, because especially with studio art, which is materially based and, you know, seeing things in person and being up close and personal with the artwork, to do it remotely is, even though you probably know what the students have been working on up until this point, it's still got to be kind of weird. I mean, how are they adapting to it?
They're okay. I mean, for a studio class, a lot of it relies on if they get you good images or images you can use, and they're kind of here and there in terms of getting them in or quality, and everybody's got their own like rhythm with when they're kind of present and um, like have the presence of mind to do the work, or when they're like in a down moment and they're kind of distracted or they're overwhelmed by things. So that kind of has a variable rhythm between students, but for the most part they've done okay. And like a lot of people who started off struggling have now towards the end of the semester kind of gotten over some of the difficulties that were keeping them from working, and they're starting to wrap up the semester and get themselves in a good position. So it seems like it's going all right considering like the big disruption that it was, but it's not ideal for anybody. So everybody is kind of keeping a positive mindset, but also just kind of tolerating it.
Yeah, I mean, how do you find it? Do you find it aggravating, or?
It's too much looking at the computer, but for this, like for lecture, I don't mind it because like I can, I have like the command center here and I can like pull up browser windows and pull up images, and I like making presentations. So for that, I don't really mind. And in some ways, it's like more intimate than like a classroom setting because often when I'm lecturing, I'm like my face is right here and I'm like looking at the images on my screen and like getting way too close to it. So, and I'm in my bedroom, so that's kind of unique. So for that, I don't mind. For the studio classes is definitely a compromise, but it could, if you started a class in that format, it could be okay. Like if that was just your expectation and people kind of knew that they had to keep up with images and stuff, it could be worthwhile.
Now, I think the last time I saw you, you dropped by Hall Walls briefly when this was all sort of starting to crash down. And I said, have a nice life when you left, because I didn't know when I'd see you again. And so we're both in the art community, a big part of which is social, is have there being openings, and you go to openings and you're social with people and you talk to people and you see people regularly. And I would say among artists in Buffalo, you're in that category of people that tend to go to as many openings as you can and seem to really relish that social component of the community. How much are you missing that specific thing right now?
I miss that a lot. That's really like It's like 90% of my social life is going to art events. Like outside of the, the small group of people I see regularly, like going to art openings is about that and concerts. Is about all I did. So I do miss that, and I try not to calculate too much just how long it'll be till any of that sort of comes back in the fashion that we knew it, or the frequency that we knew it. Um, I mean, I'm happy to look at art online, and I am like excited to see with everybody's newfound time and like existential crisis what they're going to be making with that. So there will still be cool things coming in the next 6 months to a year or whatever. But I, I'll be happy to get back to going to shows.
You mentioned you're in your bedroom. You're in a kind of new scenario. I think for the very first time, you're not in a live work situation. You have an apartment and a separate studio, which is new
Yeah.
for you as an artist. How is that working out? Are you liking that?
Yeah, I really like the new studio. I mean, I would rather live where I work, and it's been 10 years since I've been in a house. So it's weird to have, like, I have a closet over there, and there's doors and shelves, a proper kitchen. So it's nice. Like, I like the apartment. I'm not like real attached to it. And I like living with Kate Gotti, my roommate. We weren't living together before the move. Um, so it's nice. And like, I remember when I think it was right when we were moving, I was lamenting having to move to you. And you said something along the lines of, it's not entirely a bad thing to work somewhere other than where you live. And that's kind of um, manifested itself in a number of ways. Like, I don't have internet at the studio, and it's kind of across town. So when I get there, like, unless I'm making something or taking a nap, there's not much to do. So I kind of find that my like work time's a little more focused and structured. And I like that, like before when everything was in the same building or in the same room, I kind of liked the sort of frantic going back and forth between like regular life or work stuff and art stuff, and then just wasting time on the computer and like back and forth between those all day long. But this is like everything's just a bit more cordoned off, which makes work more tangible. So it's kind of nice. Plus the studios, I really like the studio. Like it's smaller, a little more cozy than the last one, but it's a nice raw space. And I spent like the very first week of all of this starting to happen was when I first got access to the new space. So I just spent that whole week pretty much there every day, setting up and assembling the like furniture that I'd made and um, bringing stuff out from storage. I had everything stored in like the studio next door until mine was ready to move into. So that was like a nice, like physical labor is kind of nice and relatively mindless. So it was a good thing to do when we were otherwise dealing with so much change elsewhere. It was still
Yeah,
change.
the images you shared of the studio look super tidy and like everything in its place. Like it looks really, really neatly organized at the moment.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I think it's not going to always look like that. That's like day one. So, stop by in 6 months or something. I'm sure it'll be messy. I also got rid of a ton of stuff. So like, and I spent a lot of time moving. So what I actually ended up bringing there, I kind of had an idea of like where it would go and what shelving I would need and stuff. So at the moment, it's very clean. I'm sure it won't be soon enough.
Is it going to have a weird effect on your process? Because previously you could be like lying in bed, uh, in your studio home, and it might occur to you to do something with a painting, and you could just get out of bed, cross the room, and start working on it. Whereas now, like you say, you're kind of like halfway across town. And do you anticipate some kind of shift in the process of how you go about making your work?
Kind of like I'm in a loose sense, just been thinking about it in terms of what are the things I can do at home and what can I do or what do I have to do at the studio. So anything that involves making a mess, I do at the studio. And even like there's a good number of days where I just went there and drew, not a big drawing, and I could do that at home, but it just seemed like a task that was better suited for that space. And then at home, I could like a lot of the, for example, newer paintings use mock mock-ups that I make on the computer with the 3D renderer or with a couple of different programs. And so what I'm trying to do is like prep those files so that then I can take them to the studio just with a thumb drive and not bring my laptop and then be set up to work on the next painting. And that's what I've been doing the last few weeks. But also like since I'm here, I mean, I'm gonna be home. Everybody's gonna be home a lot, so I'm trying to also like kind of take more time with things that I generally neglect. Like I got my various keyboards over here, and so I've been making sound stuff. I don't really like any of it, but I've been making it. And so that's like a task that I can do here, just me at the computer with headphones. Um, so that's kind of like I suppose that's it. Just like they're segmented based on place and where each task kind of best thrive.
You know, I've been asking this of people in other cities, so I might as well ask you too, even though we're in the same city. How are you finding Buffalo in this sort of social distancing moment? Do you think people are being, are they adhering to that? Or is it like, what's it like when you're going out? Or how often do you go out?
I don't see. I mean, I see people like recreating, walking around and jogging and biking, and they generally seem cheerful. I'm guessing because like that's one of the few things you can kind of do without much guilt as long as you're staying away from people. I do see a lot of cars in the road, and I drive to my studio, but I'm generally the only person in the building most of the time that I go there. I have my own room. But there are a lot of cars out, and I'm not like gonna like chastise anybody for going out or going about their lives. I just read the article in the news about how our numbers went up again. So like I think at least 2 weeks ago, people were kind of going out a little more recklessly. So I don't know. It seems like they're going out, but our numbers are not as terrible as they are in other places.
So one of the last exhibition openings that you and I both were able to attend was Joan Linder's exhibition at Meena Freud Gallery. And of course, in the interim, the last couple of weeks, Meena Freud passed away after 45 years as a gallerist here in Buffalo. And I know you've shown with her several times and knew her quite well. Do you have any thoughts about her that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I guess a lot. I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, like, what I want to do on some level is just appropriately describe her in a way that gives like respect and admiration to her life. I'm never very good at putting those into words, especially on the spot. Um,
Well,
but it's
it occurred to me when I was thinking about it that, uh, and I can't say this about myself or other people in town, but I don't think I ever heard anybody say anything bad about Nina.
no, I never heard as much either. Like the most I ever heard was that she could be intimidating, and she just had like a sort of style with which she interacted with people, and just a confidence. I think like yeah, a lot of people that are confident, especially like women that are confident, it doesn't often get portrayed as confidence. It gets portrayed as something else, whether it's like bitchiness or intimidation or aggressiveness or something. But she just knew what she wanted to say and she knew what she liked. And that was part of what was so compelling about talking to her, especially about art stuff, because she was just very frank and she didn't, we're kind of in like a verbose field, even though we're the visual arts, people tend to like, yeah, if pressed to explain something, they don't often do it in an efficient amount of words, me included. And Nina was very brief generally, but like pointed with what she would say about things. I'm gonna miss her. I mean, I don't really, I'll kind of have to like live through some to understand how it will change my life, and it doesn't matter how it changes my life, but just its impact on me is a thing that will accrue. But even in the immediate, it feels tragic. But I'm glad that I had the interactions with her that I did, and that I got to work with her for as long as I did. I haven't had much of a chance yet to catch up with her other artists like Peter Stevens. I talked, I mean, like via text briefly with Joan Linder, but just kind of a check-in sort of thing. So I guess we'll see what that means. But it's also couched within all of this other change that's going to happen. So like Meena's will be gone, but you know, in general, like our cultural economic world's going to shift a lot coming out of this. So um, it'll be kind of hard to gauge in some ways how it will change things.
You did a lot of shows with her. How did you find her when you were working on a show together? Like when she would come to the studio to look at work, how was that relationship?
It was good. She was like in some ways kind of hands off. Like I would send her some updates and like early on in the process, like earlier in the year when I was set to have a show, I would like visit her and kind of show her some stuff that I'd made recently or some shows that I'd done elsewhere and just kind of tell her what I was thinking. I don't know if I have good or bad work ethic because I can get a lot done in a short amount of time, but I often put off like deciding what to do till very late. So there were a lot of I mean, I did 5 shows with her. Probably 4 of them, like I didn't start till January, and the show was in April or May, and a lot of the work was made pretty quick. But she would stop by like a month or two before I was supposed to bring stuff to the gallery and just do a brief meeting. Um, and then aside from some emailing, other than that, and getting the postcard set and the title and some basic information for the show, she just kind of had I guess it was trust. I don't know. She wasn't too worried about it. She would check in. That one meeting, it was sort of like the kind of a trial, but not really. It was very relaxed, and she would come in, and if she was into it, she would just kind of say like, "All right, that's good. I'll move on." Um, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you working on now? Are you kind of have to wait till school's done to really get back to some work?
I've still been doing stuff here and there. School takes up a lot of the middle of the week, and then I've done like 3 drawings and 2 paintings, and then a couple of sound things. Um, and the paintings are like you got that one of me behind you there, the smoke plumes with the little lines that follow the smoke plumes in sort of a cross contour volumetric way. It's sort of like that, but like I mentioned earlier, they've changed. The process has changed and it's gotten more convoluted, and there's more color now, and they're based off of stuff that I make on the computer, and then more or less traces a painting. So that process keeps changing, and that's kind of keeping my attention. And so, like with the newest one, I could show you the newest one. Do you want to see? I finished it. I tried real hard, John, to finish it yesterday so that I would be able to show you a picture.
Let's see it.
Let me figure out how to share my. Okay, there it is. This is my desktop. I kind of.
Oh,
I had to
wow.
leave, and I was upset with some of the surface quality, like how the tape tore off right here. There was these little like this black area is PVA sizing and graphite, and the sizing's kind of gummy even when it's dry. So like it wasn't perfect tear when I took this piece of tape off, say for this red line, and I got it. I mean, it's more or less done, but I had to like leave in a huff. I was a little pissed off because I didn't anticipate that it would work out that way. But it's whatever. It's a large, colorful image.
Kyle, it's almost representational.
Yeah, it's windows with some fire outside.
Wow.
My working. Tell me what you think of this title. The working title is "What About Major Kong?" That's the last thing that's said about the guy in Doctor Strangelove that rides the bomb down to the ground. The pilot goes, "What about Major Kong?" I don't think I'm gonna keep the title, but maybe.
Well, it's, I never comment on titles because, Cindy Sherman never titled anything, and that's fine with me. And other people title everything, and that's fine with me too. So I think that's a wonderful title. It looks beautiful, beautiful piece. Thanks for sharing that. So my last question is the same last question I ask everyone. And I find it funny that people are often surprised that this is the question. But whatever version of normal is going to be returns, what's the first thing you want to do, big or little, that you can't do now?
That I can't do now. Hug a bunch of my friends. go sit at Cafe 59 and eat a tuna melt with a bunch of my friends. The first thing, though, I don't know what the first thing would be. I'm gonna wear like a funny suit and then just like rub all over people at the mall and just run around a bunch and be really sweaty. And I don't really know. I don't really have an answer to that, John.
Yeah, it's
Probably, actually, I think probably some dumb creature comfort. Like I'm gonna go get a bag of peanut butter somewhere and then just sit there among people.
there's no dumb answer. You know, I asked Vandana Jane in Brooklyn, and she said, "I just want to go to a store and browse."
Go to a store and
So,
browse.
you know, there's like everybody wants like some little ordinary thing, and it's not always a momentous thing. It's just something that brings us back to where we were somehow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for taking some time out to chat today. I'm sorry that we're half a mile apart and we can't see each other. Hopefully that will change real soon and we can see each other in person again, because that's always a delight. So thanks a lot, Kyle.
Yeah. Thank you, John. It was good seeing you again.
All right, take care.
You too.